At 93 years old, Angie Dickinson, the woman who once enchanted all of America, has finally spoken out about the 5 men she could never forgive. Some were Hollywood legends who stood beside her on red carpets, shared the screen with her, and even shared her bed. But after more than 70 years in the spotlight, Angie has chosen to reveal each name with an icy bluntness, showing no trace of mercy. What could make a woman nearly a century old still carry such unshakable resentment, fear, betrayal, a soul that was broken long ago? Angie Dickinson was born on September 30th, 1931 in the tiny town of Comoms, North Dakota, hardly the place anyone would expect to produce a future Hollywood icon. From a little girl who loved writing poetry and had no formal acting training, Angie entered Hollywood as a complete outsider. Yet within a decade, she had surpassed hundreds of glamorous hopefuls, appeared in more than 50 television films, and became the first seductive female action figure on American screens, something almost unheard of in that era. Her sharp independence and smoldering presence lifted her from minor roles to major stardom in films like Rio Bravo, Dressed to Kill, and especially the groundbreaking TV series Policewoman, where she made history as America's first female TV cop. She didn't just play a strong woman, she defined one. But fame always comes with shadows. Angie was dropped from 4 major roles simply because she refused to sleep with producers. The media worshipped her as a sex goddess, yet behind the scenes, people in the industry whispered far cruder names. Even her highly publicized romance with Frank Sinatra, portrayed as glamorous and passionate, was in reality laced with jealousy and control. At one point, Frank allegedly threatened to shut down an entire film crew if Angie dared to kiss another actor on camera. Angie once admitted, "I loved him, but I was never truly myself around him." Tragedy struck again years later when her only daughter, Nikki, who had lived her entire life with severe autism, took her own life at the age of 40. Angie didn't speak to reporters. She didn't shed tears for the cameras. She simply wrote in a letter, "I survived, but a part of me died with her." Now at 93, Angie has no reason left to protect anyone's reputation. She no longer fears losing roles, Hollywood backlash, or the consequences of staying silent. For the first time, she has chosen to speak out and name the 5 men she once loved, trusted, even idolized, but now despises with every fiber of her being. Who are they? What did they do to her? Who ranks at the top of Angie Dickinson's blacklist, the source of a pain she has carried for nearly 70 years? The first man is Frank Sinatra, the manipulator disguised as a lover. Frank could make a woman feel like a queen in the morning and toss her aside like a toy by nightfall. Hollywood called them the golden couple, but Angie had a different name for it: the most dangerous relationship of my life. Sinatra, the legendary king of swing, the man whose mere glance could make millions of women tremble, revealed a far darker side once the lights dimmed. At first, he drowned Angie in affection. Morning bouquets, private dinners by the pool, whispers telling her she was unlike anyone else. But all the sweetness vanished the moment she accepted a role that required her to kiss another actor. Frank hurled the script at her and said coldly, "You're mine. No one touches you, not even on screen." From that moment on, his control tightened. He forbade her from seeing male friends, had people follow her on set, and once, when Angie attended an audition he didn't approve of, she returned home to find her belongings destroyed and every photo of them burned. Sinatra didn't hide her from the world. He broke her by making her fear her own voice. He didn't need to hold her hand. He held her schedule, her co-stars, her contracts, even her sleep. Angie once wrote in her journal, "He didn't want me to love him. He wanted me to forget anyone else existed." The breaking point finally came in 1970 when Angie was nominated for a leading role in a critically praised independent film. Frank once called a director at 2 in the morning and delivered a threat that ended everything: "If you keep her in that movie, you'll never work in Hollywood again." By the next day, the role was gone. No explanation, no apology. That was the moment Angie understood the truth. Loving Frank Sinatra was like living inside a golden cage, glittering on the outside but suffocating within. And in that cage, she realized she no longer existed. Even now, decades later, she admits she can never forgive him. "I loved the man every woman dreamed of," she said, "but I paid for it with my soul." But Frank was only the beginning. After him came the second man, the one who stood beside her at the altar, vowed forever, and betrayed her in the most unforgivable way. He was her husband and the source of a mother's deepest heartbreak. The second man, Burt Bacharach, the husband who turned her into a stranger to her own daughter. People often asked Angie why she hated him so fiercely. Her answer was simple: "I don't hate him. I loathe him because Burt didn't just leave me. He walked away from our suffering daughter as well." Burt Bacharach, the musical genius, the Grammy-winning icon of the 60s and 70s, celebrated worldwide. But to Angie, he was nothing more than a man constantly running away, wrapped in expensive suits and empty promises. They married in 1965 when Angie was at the height of her career. The media adored them. She, the Hollywood sensation, he, the brilliant composer. But inside their luxurious Beverly Hills mansion, Angie spent countless nights crying alone while Burt disappeared with the excuse of finding inspiration. Then came their daughter, Nikki Bacharach. From the beginning, Nikki wasn't like other children. She was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, a condition barely understood at the time. Angie was thrown into crisis. Burt responded with silence. "I held our baby in my arms, trembling," Angie recalled, "and all he asked was, 'Will she interfere with my schedule?'" From that moment, Angie raised Nikki by herself, carrying the emotional weight alone. Burt chose escape through glamorous women, yachts, and wild nights in Las Vegas. There was a day Angie called him, begging for his signature on a document for a special treatment Nikki desperately needed. Burt answered coldly, "I'm recording. Don't call again unless she's dead." And then came the cruelty she never saw coming. Burt had been having an affair with a young singer throughout her pregnancy, not just once, but repeatedly. He even brought the woman into their home while Angie slept in the next room with their newborn daughter. Angie remembered the night it all ended. She woke up to laughter drifting from downstairs. Not the sound of music, not creativity, but betrayal. In 1981, she and Burt Bacharach divorced. The press softened the story, calling it an amicable split. But Angie never forgave him. To her, Burt hadn't just broken a marriage. He had shattered the fragile world of a child who desperately needed a father. And after Burt came another man, not a husband, not a lover, not even a fleeting romance, but the most powerful figure in the entertainment industry at the time. A man who crushed Angie's ambition and freedom with a single phone call. He never touched her. He didn't have to. One sentence from him and Hollywood shut its doors. The third man, Jack Webb, the man who destroyed her career without ever laying a hand on her. There were no photos of them together, no rumors, no scandals. Yet Angie claimed he was the only man capable of ending her career within 12 hours. Jack Webb, the television mogul behind multiple hit series of the 1970s, was a man every actress was forced to smile at, even on the brink of tears. "I once refused to sleep with him," Angie recalled. "I thought I was famous enough to be treated with respect." The next morning, 3 major roles disappeared. Contracts vanished without a single explanation. Friends whispered warnings. "You said no to him. You're done." No one dared mention his name. No one looked him in the eye during meetings. He had the power to transform a leading lady into an outcast with nothing more than a quiet remark. Angie didn't break down. She packed her dressing room and left. And that was the day she realized she could win over audiences, but she could never defeat the system. But there was another man, someone who claimed he loved her more than life itself, yet wrapped that love in surveillance, jealousy, and a slow, suffocating fear. It was a relationship that haunted Angie for 40 years. Now she is ready to say his name. The fourth man, Larry King, the man whose love hurt the most. He never hit her, never shouted, never humiliated her publicly. But every time, Angie smiled at another person. He stared at her with an intensity that hollowed her out. Then he began dismantling her life piece by piece, quietly, deliberately. He wasn't as famous as Sinatra or as powerful as the producers, but he knew how to make Angie believe that no one would ever love her the way he did. Every touch, every gentle stroke of her hair, every promise was crafted for control. "You're mine forever. If you leave, I won't survive. But I won't let you live in peace either," he warned. One by one, Angie lost her friends, her work, her joy. If she came home 10 minutes late, he exploded. If she complimented someone on television, he smashed the screen. Once he even planted a microphone in her car just to hear whether she sighed at the thought of another man. When Angie finally tried to escape, he drank heavily, slammed his head into a mirror, and collapsed bleeding onto her shoulder like a scene torn from a nightmare. "I love you so much. It's driving me insane," he whispered. And in that moment, Angie understood this was not love. It was imprisonment. "I used to believe pain was part of a great love," she said. "Now I know real love never comes with fear." And then came the final name, the one that shocked everyone. A man who once told Angie she was family. A man she trusted. Yet what he did behind the scenes became, in her own words, the most disgusting betrayal of my life. He didn't hurt her physically. Instead, he delivered one devastating sentence in front of 20 people, a sentence that ensured she could never lift her head again. The fifth man in Angie Dickinson's life was Johnny Carson. The fake smile, the public hug, and the backstage slap. At a ceremony where Angie was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, Johnny walked onto the stage, hugged her in front of hundreds of people, and whispered in her ear a line Angie would never forget. "I just saved you from embarrassment. Don't make me regret it." Johnny was not a lover, not a husband, not a jealous pursuer. He was a friend, and he once called Angie family. But just before the broadcast, Johnny received an old clip, a deleted scene in which Angie accidentally mentioned a producer who had been accused of abuse. The clip, if released, could reignite the scandal and make Angie a target for accusations of digging up the past. Instead of warning or defending her, Johnny smiled, hugged her like a hero, and then delivered the final blow on air. When the lights came up, he announced, "Our Angie is a timeless icon. A woman who knows when to speak and when to keep quiet." The audience applauded and Angie stood still. She understood this as a public warning that she had crossed the line just by mentioning a taboo name. Then it was Johnny who quietly removed her name from the nomination lists at many shows. No one believed her. No one verified anything. Only Angie in Johnny's eyes knew what had happened. "I don't need his love," Angie said. "I need loyalty." But he chose the audience, not me. 5 men, 5 names that had appeared with her in the press, on red carpets, in gossip stories. But now, they no longer had the power they once had. Only Angie remained, still standing there, still remembering every wound. "I have forgiven myself," she said, "but I have not forgiven them." And don't look away, because in the next video, we're opening the pages of Angie Dickinson's secret diary, where she wrote down words she never dared to speak aloud until now.